Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of Hooked on Sports here on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasting streaming services. My name is John Flynn, and thank you so very much for listening to the episode today. So, we have a lot to get into today throughout the course of the episode. We'll get into some of the stuff going on in the NHL and their playoffs. So that the round 2 is underway there. I'll get into a couple of big picture things in Major League Baseball, including the Atlanta Braves being the best team in baseball for the first 5.5 weeks of the season. And then I'll also get into what could be a compelling race in the American League East between the Yankees and the Tampa Bay Rays. I'll get into the historic victory for Golden Tempo in the Kentucky Derby and why I think everyone needs to slow down on the manner in which Golden Tempo and Jose Ortiz won the race. So we'll get into that, but the big story around sports right now is the end of round 1 in the NBA playoffs. All 8 of those series have been completed. Round 2 begins tonight. We have 2 series tipping off tonight, 2 series tipping off tomorrow night. But I will say, in a season where there were so many weird things that transpired throughout the regular season, like this was as underwhelming a regular season as we've seen in recent times because of the whole tanking problem being real, and it was a real thing, especially in the last 6 weeks of the season, where everyone's tanking and the commissioner having to introduce some ideas on how to curb the tanking problem in the NBA. But I think the league made up for it with a compelling round 1 of the playoffs, and this was as good a round 1 of the NBA playoffs as we've seen in about 10 years. Because in 6 of the 8 series, it went at least 6 games. 3 of those series went 7 games. We had 2-3-1 comebacks. So you had a 1 seed that was down 24 points in an elimination game and won the series. So you had that, and then of course you had sweeps by OKC and the dominance by San Antonio. But I do want to look at a few different things more in detail, and the Boston Celtics flat out embarrassed themselves last week. As I was ready as I was finishing up the pod last week, to start looking ahead towards a Knicks-Celtics round 2 series, which probably would have started by now had the Celtics not blow that lead in Game 5, and then that gave all the confidence Philly needed to win Game 6, and then Game 7. In Boston, the first time they've beaten Boston in the playoffs in a long time. So obviously a long time coming for the Philadelphia 76ers. But I thought what the Celtics were as good a story as we saw in the entire league this past year. That Jason Tatum was out. This was supposed to be a gap year. So they let key pieces go, whether it's through trades or free agency or whatnot. Yet they were still the number 2 seed in the Eastern Conference. All that, and they did wind up getting Jason Tatum back. Tatum was playing at an all-star caliber level as he got deeper into his return to the lineup. But then he doesn't play well in Game 5. Gets hurt in Game 6. Doesn't play in Game 7. And the crazy thing was the Celtics still had a great opportunity to win Game 7 despite being down as many as 18 points in the second half. They tightened up the defense. That they made shots. They drove to the basket. They challenged. They challenged Joel Embiid, and they got within 1 point with 6 minutes left. But I thought that they were chucking down, trying some wacky 3-point attempts down in the last 5 minutes of the game. That the Celtics team, this Celtics squad last year lived and died on the three. This is the exact same thing happened this year. And I thought the best shot that they had. So what was when I think it was Jaylen Brown found Peyton Pritchard in the corner for a corner three. That was a terrific look and a terrific opportunity, but that did not go in. And I thought the series depended on whether or not that shot went in because I thought if Boston put that if Pritchard put that in, Boston would have been up by 2 and Philly would have been totally rattled by that, but that did not be the case, and the 76ers wound up winning that series, and Boston really needs to take a look at themselves because not often when you are the superior team and the other side doesn't have an all-time great player, so that you blow a 3-1 lead because it doesn't happen often, but we had 2 3-1 comebacks in this round and in these playoffs, but you really have to consider trying to beef up the inside scoring. That you have to consider whether Joe Mazzulla is the right coach for this team because if you look at how the Celtics got bounced in the playoffs the 3 years that they didn't win the finals, that they lost to a Heat team. So the 8 seed Heat team that was they went down 3-0. They came back. They had a lucky bounce to win Game 6, but then wound up losing Game 7 at home in an embarrassment. They won the finals. They had a lot of injury luck with the opponents on their side in that one. And then last year was a team that I don't think was necessarily great when you look at the eye test. They were 10 or 11 wins better than the Knicks last year. They blew a 20-point lead in Game 1. They blew a 20-point lead in Game 2, and that was the series right there. And also, not to mention, Tatum got hurt, but that would not have impacted the outcome of the series based upon the dominant closeout performance in Game 6 to send the Knicks to the conference finals for the first time in 25 years. And you also look at now this year. Against the Sixers team that didn't have much rhythm all year, that they come together and they deliver punch after punch after punch with that. So the season as a whole, I thought so the regular season was a big success, but this series was a major disappointment for the Boston Celtics. And look, you got to give the Sixers credit. Like a couple years ago, when the Sixers acquired signed Paul George, there was a real a thinking at the time of the Sixers being the third or worst case scenario, fourth best team in the Eastern Conference, and Embiid's had injuries all year. Paul George had the injury, and then of course I believe he got suspended as well for other things. So, but now you have a Sixers team. We'll see we'll see what the status of Joel Embiid is. When it comes to the Sixers, the series against the Knicks because of the hyperextended knee, but you got him. You got Paul George. Tyrese Maxey is a star. And VJ Edgecombe, I think, is going to be on that route as well. And then Kelly Oubre being a potential fifth option. That's if I'm a 76ers fan, I can't get mad at that. But still, incredible a comeback and series win for the Sixers, finally taking down the Celtics after so many times them not being able to get over the Celtics when it matters the most. So that was that. And speaking of blown leads, I mean, the Orlando Magic in a potential closeout game had a 24-point lead in Game 6 against the top-seeded Pistons, and they blew it. I mean, that was some of the most ridiculous stuff I ever saw in an NBA game. Like 62-38 with 11 minutes left in the third quarter, and the Magic scores 17 points in 22 and a half minutes to close out Game 6. And the Pistons go on a 55-17 run to end that game. There were so many things wrong with Orlando this year. The injuries were a big problem, and there was a heightened amount of pressure on the Magic this year because they traded 4 first-round picks to acquire Desmond Bane, who they could have drafted in 2020 with their pick then. But it made doesn't make any sense how it happened. But give the Pistons credit. They played the best defensive half they have played in generations. In a pressure situation. But Kate Cunningham was superb. And the key role players for Detroit stepped up as well. But blowing a 24-point lead was a fireable offense, and Jamal Mosley, the head coach of the Orlando Magic, got fired because of it. And look, you obviously knew what was going to happen. The Magic had no chance of winning Game 7 yesterday in Detroit after blowing that Game 6 lead. And you look there and say what needs to happen, and there are so many things that the franchise needs to evaluate. But I will say though, so the Magic have a pretty attractive head coaching opening down the road. It's like Tom Thibodeau is considered to be a candidate. Billy Donovan, both would be outstanding, superb hires for the Orlando Magic, if they go those routes. But man, you have to think. But the thing is, I never understood the 4 first-round picks that they gave up for Desmond Bane. I could wrap my head slightly around the Knicks trading 4 first-round picks for Mikal Bridges, because the Knicks were in a window where they had an opportunity to win a championship. They haven't done so yet, but that remains to be seen if the Knicks can go to the NBA Finals or not. But the thing is, I never understood that for the Orlando Magic, considering that I don't think they were there with the Knicks. But in any way, I think the Knicks would have beaten them would have beaten Orlando in 6 games, maximum 6 games. But still, that's totally unacceptable with that. And speaking of the Knicks, the Knicks played incredible basketball in Game 5 and then Game 6. I could not believe the wide margin the Knicks had in that game. the game was pretty much over by the end of the first quarter. Like ESPN's win probability graph showed the Knicks with a 97% chance to win the game after the first quarter. So because they were down 11-9 early in the first quarter, and then they just kept making shot after shot after shot, and the Hawks played hot potato with the basketball all night. So give the Hawks credit for playing for making the playoffs despite moving on from Trae Young, but that was a disappointment, obviously, for Quinn Snyder and the Atlanta Hawks. So you have that, and then also we'll get into the West in just a moment, but then the Cavs outlasting the Raptors in Game 7. I mean, there was no reason the Cavs should have had to play 7 games against this Raptors team that really didn't move me at all this season. I mean, the Knicks would have swept them, I believe, in round 1. So, but you give the Cavs credit for Game 7, but performances like they had in Game 6, where they had opportunities to win. And then RJ Barrett hits a game-winning 3-pointer with 1.2 seconds left in the game. So you couldn't have that, and you might have gotten away with some nondescript ball movement and all of that, and some soft defense in the first half of Game 5 against Toronto, but they wound up winning Games 5 and 7 in Cleveland, and now there's have a round 2 series set up with the Pistons. So we'll get into my picks for round 2 in just a little bit. But onto a couple of things in the Western Conference. How about the Minnesota Timberwolves? They were shorthanded. They played without Dante DiVincenzo, who ruptured his Achilles. They played without Anthony Edwards, who hyperextended his knee. They had a couple of other injuries as well. And they beat the Denver Nuggets in 6 games. With Nikola Jokic. So a couple of takes there. I mean, give Minnesota a lot of credit. Chris Finch is a superb head coach. Like the Timberwolves played, and the heart and toughness they showed. Was exactly why the Timberwolves went to the Western Conference Finals each of the past 2 seasons. In a conference that's had Luka, LeBron, SGA, the Thunder, it's Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, Draymond, it's Devin Booker and Sengun and so many other talented names in the Western Conference. Minnesota's been in the conference finals, been one of the final 2 in the West each of the last 2 years, and you have to give them so much credit. Now, but that was pretty disappointing for Denver, and Jaden McDaniels called out some of the play for Nikola Jokic early on in that series. I think this was after Minnesota came back and won Game 2 to even up the series. Like those first 2 games in Denver were pretty competitive. I know the Game 1 wasn't really decided until the last couple of minutes of the game. But Minnesota was clearly the better team in the series, and Nikola Jokic had a pretty nondescript series. He was not great enough offensively, but his defensive play really took a nosedive in the series. And you had Jaden McDaniels, you had Terrence Shannon step up in a big way. So happy for the Timberwolves fans. And happy for Minnesota sports fans that night because the Wild won their a playoff series for the first time in 11 years the same night Minnesota clinched against Denver. Now you have Denver and Minnesota meeting up in round 2 of the NHL playoffs with the Avs and the Wild there. But yeah, the Timberwolves there, and then the Lakers took care of business. There were worries about the Lakers blowing a 3-0 lead, based upon the losses in games 4 and 5, but the Lakers showed up and they played exceptionally well defensively in game 6 to close out the Rockets. Now you have OKC and the Lakers in round 2. You have that you have Minnesota and San Antonio. I wish Anthony Edwards and Dante DiVincenzo were healthy for this one, because I thought this could have been a really competitive series, but I just might not be. It's hard for me to ration that notion at this point. So with that in mind, round 2 of the NBA playoffs start tonight. You got the Knicks and the Sixers, and I think the most compelling series of round 2 is New York Philadelphia. There is like a lot, obviously bad blood between the two fan bases because it's New York, Philly. The rivalry between those cities is far and well documented, but I feel like this series has the best chance to go 7 games. I mean, this is something I say as a Knicks fan, that I will refuse. I refuse to underestimate this Philadelphia 76ers squad. And the thing is, I think the Sixers have matchups in this series that I think could be in their favor. So, I think that Joel Embiid and Karl-Anthony Towns, that you have two exceptionally gifted offensive centers between the two of them. Joel Embiid is better defensively, but Cat played really well defensively in the round 1 series against Atlanta, and then you also have look at the rest of the starting 5 with VJ Edgecombe and Tyrese Maxey and Paul George. We're gonna have to see about Embiid, but there's gonna be a sense of physicality. There's gonna be an intensity. I think more so than what we saw 2 years ago, when the Knicks and the 76ers met in an intense and an incredible round 1 matchup. So it's going to be all sorts of fun in that series if you're a basketball fan. But I will tell you, it's going to be torture for both the Knicks and the Sixers fan bases over the next 2 weeks, because I believe the series is going 7 games. But I think the Knicks have the advantage because they have a better bench, so I think with this series, I think we're going to find out whether the firing of Tom Thibodeau was justified, because if this iteration of the Sixers played the Knicks last year, I would have picked Philadelphia to win that series. But the Knicks, it made it a point for the Knicks to have a healthy bench with Mitchell Robinson and being an important piece in the sixth man conversation. But I'm going to take the Knicks to win the series in 7 games over. Over the Philadelphia 76ers coming up starting tonight. So it's going to be going to be an outstanding series for sure. I also want to look at Minnesota versus San Antonio, because San Antonio has had all the accolades with Victor Wembanyama, and he's obviously so incredible, and so uh, and so towering a presence. Like he was the one defensive player of the year this year, and he's going to be in the conversation for I think he's in the conversation. If I don't know if he is or not, but they're for league MVP as well for a while to come. But this is a terrific Spurs team that deserves a lot of credit because when you look at what they have with Fox and Champagne and and all the others, Dylan Harper and Keldon Johnson won the sixth man of the year this year. The league announced that Dylan Harper 19 making some impacts, and then of course Stephen Castle, who I mentioned before, but my concern for Minnesota is not being able to match the offensive firepower that San Antonio has without the services of Anthony Edwards. So it's going to be up to Julius Randle. It's going to be up to Rudy Gobert, Jaden McDaniels to step up and turn their level of play up a notch, because and also not to mention the what they got from Nas Reed and I Dosomu. I was gonna say that correctly, but I do expect at the end of the day San Antonio to win this series. I'm picking the Spurs in 6 over Minnesota. I just think Minnesota is too well coached, not to be run run out of the gym in this series. So it's gonna be dependent on those guys to be able to step up as well. The Pistons and the Cavs. Because I thought this would be a cakewalk to the conference finals for Detroit, but that obviously did not turn out the case to be. But the way the Pistons played down the stretch in Game 6 and then winning Game 7 by 22 points, that they're plus minus in the last in the last 22 in the last game and a half with Game 6 and Game 7. It was plus 22 in Game 7, and then the last 23 minutes of Game 6 was plus 38. So they had a plus 60 rating in the last 71 minutes they played. But this was the Pistons team, so that played like a one seed. But I also think that them not having a rest disadvantage against Cleveland, I think is kind of big. I don't trust Cleveland in this spot. I think Detroit can put the clamps down defensively. I think defense matters, obviously, in a big way, but there are concerns obviously with Detroit, because Jalen Duren took a big step back after playing so well during the regular season. But now it's going to be a matter of going to be a question, I think, of whether Jalen Duren is going to show up on a game by game basis, because I think it's going to be needed on that to take pressure off guys like Cade Cunningham, to be able to do their thing and do it and to do it at a high level. So it's going to be dependent on those guys, with Cade Cunningham, Tobias Harris, to step up and play accordingly and play well. All-Star Thompson I think needs to be better. So I do think that is going to happen because despite Cleveland's offensive prowess with James Harden, and I as much as I disagreed with the James Harden trade, the Cavs don't win that round one series in my opinion without James Harden, because it allowed other folks to step up with that squad with Evan Mobley, Donovan Mitchell. But I think Detroit is better positioned because I think they are a better defensive team. We're just saying a lot with Cleveland and their successes defensively over the last couple of years. But I've got the Pistons in 6 over the Cavs, and then the Lakers and the Thunder, the last round 2 series that starts tomorrow night. It's with the Lakers being without Luka Doncic, and obviously, and it feels like his timeline is pushed back, more and more and more, as things get along. There's still no real timetable for him to return. But now they have to go up against the juggernaut, a well rested Oklahoma City team, that that hasn't played in a week. So it's going to be it's going to be dependent on LeBron to be able to carry the load. It's going to be a much taller task against a relatively healthy Oklahoma City team, but I feel like this might be the end of the road for LeBron when it comes to playoff competitiveness, because we've seen over the last 15-20 years some key players in the Western Conference see the real windows of contention decline, pretty much end at the hands of OKC, because you look at Tim Duncan and Dirk Nowitzki and Kobe Bryant, among others. And I think LeBron's gonna have that same fate. So I'm gonna go Oklahoma City in 5 over the Lakers in round 2, setting up a highly anticipated OKC San Antonio showdown in the Western Conference Finals. Now, on to to some of the things in the Stanley Cup playoffs. I mean, the Stanley Cup playoffs have been terrific as well, because you have the Sabres. So they won a playoff series in their return to the playoff after 15 years. After 15 years on the sidelines of the playoffs, so that's certainly terrific as well. So you have you 2 playoff series have already started. You had Carolina and Philadelphia. That the Flyers got past the Penguins in their series. So I did not think that was going to happen, but it did. So Philadelphia plays Carolina. Carolina won Game 1 in a clean 3-0 game for Carolina, a clean sheet for them. I do think Carolina is going to win that series in 5 or 6 games. Then you had Buffalo, who got past the Bruins. They take on a Montreal Canadiens team that just went neck and neck 7 times with the Tampa Bay Lightning. It was a terrific series. As all throughout. The road team won the last 4 games of that series, and all 7 of those games were decided by a goal. But Montreal had a tremendous win in Game 7. Against Tampa, despite getting only 9 shots on goal, 2 of them went in. And Jacob Dobbs made 28 saves on 29 shot attempts for the Canadiens to win that game and that series. So a great job with what the Canadiens have done all year with that. So you have that. series. So it's going to be Buffalo and Montreal. I think it's going to be a terrific round 2 series. That won't start, believe it or not, until Wednesday, which is kind of strange to me, but. But I will pick the Sabres to win the series in 7. I think this is going to be another tremendous series. Obviously, then in the West you have Colorado and Minnesota, and Colorado just played an absolute barn burner last night with the with Minnesota in round 1 of that series. Excuse me, in game 1 of that series. So I was certainly amazed. The final score of that game was 9-6, which is a score you probably more associate if it was the Broncos and the Vikings playing playing a game like that. But so, but man, that was a load of fun. That you had that you had 5 goals by Colorado scored by defensemen, including 2 from Cale Makar. You had a goal and a couple of assists from McKinnon. You had 3 assists from Nakos. And you had 3 assists by Devon Taves for Colorado in last night's victory. So, and also not to mention a goal and 2 assists for Quinn Hughes on the heels of scoring 2 goals and an assist in a closeout game with Dallas in their round 1 series. I have Colorado winning the series in 6 games because I just think Colorado is the best team I saw all year, and they're continuing to prove it a week in and week out. With that, and then Vegas and Anaheim finishing up. Finished up their series late last week, and they'll be starting their round 2 series tonight. But between Vegas and Anaheim, and Anaheim knocked off the Edmonton Oilers, while the while the Golden Knights took care of business against the Utah Mammoth. So I have Vegas winning the series in 6 games. I still think the championship culture and the key figures associated with Vegas over the last few years, most of them are still there. So I do think they'll find a way to win that series in 6 games. So so it's going to be a fun round 2 of the playoffs in the NHL, round 2 of the playoffs in the NBA, as I chronicled for the first 25-30 minutes of this podcast. Now I'm going to do a quick roundup in Major League Baseball, but the National League West, they're on a combined 19-game losing streak. You could get the Dodgers, they lost 3 straight. That the Diamondbacks got swept by the Cubs over the weekend. The Rockies got swept by the Braves. We'll get into them in a little bit. And actually, the Dodgers and Padres both won games, but at one point this weekend, that division had a combined 19-game skid. And then the Giants, they got swept by the Phillies, and then they got swept by the Rays. And look, I could not put the Giants. I felt like the Giants had an opportunity to didn't know what it was going to be like with Tony Vitelli, but I couldn't put the Giants in the playoffs. Because you didn't know what the reaction would be like for Tony Vitelli, but so far that has not turned out to be anything like the San Francisco Giants fans had hoped. They got walked off 3 times in 4 days on this 0-4 road trip. Including 2 walk-offs against the Phillies in a doubleheader where they were leading going into the 9th inning in both of those games. So that was an unacceptable series loss for for the San Francisco Giants. There and then Arizona, their pitching is a mess. Colorado, so they've been playing better than they were last year, but they're still not nowhere near where they need to be. So now it's the Dodgers who avoided a sweep of the Cardinals, and the Padres who avoided a sweep at the hands of the White Sox and Murakami over the weekend. So then you have that. But the NL Central has been piping hot. All five teams in that division are at least 3 games over 500. But the Cubs are leading the way. They swept the Diamondbacks. The Brewers, despite a plus 45 run differential, they're tied for last place with the Pittsburgh Pirates, who have a plus 31 run differential. So you have that. The Reds are winning games despite a minus 22 run differential. With that in the National League, but the Reds got swept over the weekend by the Pirates. So the Reds took a step back this weekend. In the NL East, I think you have to look at the Braves as the best team in baseball. They've been the best team I've seen all year up to this point, and it's amazing that the Braves were the easiest bounce back candidate for this season, but what they're getting from Drake Baldwin and Michael Harris and Matt Olson. Matt Olson leads the National League with 11 bombs and 31 ribeyes through the first 5.5 weeks. Ozzy Albies is hitting .333 and leads the National League with 45 tied for the Major League lead with his teammate Drake Baldwin, each with 45 hits. And Michael Harris, they did take a bit of a hit with Ronald Acuna injuring his hamstring. He's now on the injured list, but Dom Smith has been great too. And then pitching wise, you have that you've had great starts from Chris Sale and Bryce Elder and Martin Perez. All sporting ERAs under 2.5. So we're gonna keep finding out more about this Braves team because after the sweep in Colorado, they have 2 more stops on their big West Coast swing. They have 3 games in Seattle starting tonight, and then this weekend a showdown with the Dodgers at Dodger Stadium over the weekend. So it's going to be a telltale sign of how of where the Braves are, and if they can be even better than what they have. So the Braves are 25-10. That is clearing away the best record in baseball. And the best start through 35 decisions in Braves franchise history, the best one since 1889 when they started 26-9 that year. So this is all-time stuff from the Braves. The Yankees can rounding out the rest of the NL East because I haven't looked because we haven't discussed them them a whole lot. Right now, but the Marlins are sitting in second place. They have a -1 run differential. The Nats, the Nats are playing better on the road than they are at home. But then the Phillies and the Mets have just been disasters. The Mets have the worst record in baseball with a record of 12-22. They've had so many winnable games that they let slip away. They did take 2 of 3 for the Angels, but I will say the Mets actually showed a little bit of heart and toughness over the weekend. So they were down, they were trailing in all 3 of those games, and they came back to win 2 of them. So that's some promising signs there. With that, now onto the American League. The Yankees have been the best team in the American League by far. They're only they are one of 2 teams with a run differential above 10. That the other is the Tigers. we're sitting at 18-17. And I think the case for the second best team in the American League has been the Tampa Bay Rays, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. But the Rays, they started the year 5-6, and they played some great baseball over the last 4 weeks or so. It helps when you have Jonathan Aranda driving in runs. Jonathan Aranda leads the AL with 28 ribeyes. And Junior Caminero hitting bombs. He's got 9 homers on the season so far, and I think he could very much he can very well hit 40 to 50 bombs this year, and I'm not just saying it because he was my pick to win the win the MVP, but I think there's a lot of potential there with the Rays, and it's also nice for the Rays to have to be playing at the Trop again after missing all of last year, having to play at Steinbrenner Field due to the impacts of Hurricane Milton a year and a half ago. So you have that, and the AL West has been kind of wild. The Athletics are in first place in that division. So I'm see what happens when you actually invest in players. So you have the A's, you have but the A's are the only team in that division over 500 right now. But in terms of the rest of the AL, you got Baltimore. They've lost 4 straight at the and they're going to avoid a 4-game sweep at the hands of the Yankees tonight. Because you have the Mariners that are 3 under. Baltimore is 4 under. Boston is 8 under. They lost 2 straight. So they've lost the 2 straight to the Astros over to close out the weekend. So it's gonna be telling on that. So and then finally, I do want to wrap up the podcast today by discussing the Kentucky Derby, and this was the most wide open Kentucky Derby in years. So that you had no idea who the favorite was going to be, whether it was a Renegade, Commandment, Further Ado, it's a Chief Wallaby, and all that. But the top 2 finishers in the Kentucky Derby were in the back of the pack through the first half minute or so of that race. With Golden Tempo winning from far behind, and then Renegade finishing second, lost to Golden Tempo by a neck. But I think the testing fractions of those first four furlongs, I think, allowed a horse like Golden Temple to be able to come back and win the Derby. Now, everyone's saying, "Oh, this is like last first is crazy." I mean, it's disingenuous to say that when it's happened pretty frequently in the past 20 years. You kind of think of Street Scent, you think of Mind That Bird, when both of those horses ridden by Calvin Burrell. But then Rich Strike was in that position 4 years ago and came all the way back and won the Derby. And then you have Golden Tempo doing the same thing. The first quarter mile was running 22 3/5 seconds. The half mile fraction was 46 2/5 seconds, and most of the field was more towards the leaders. So those horses were going to fade away, while other horses like Golden Tempo, Renegade, then Ocelli, they were completed the trifecta on that, and it was a great moment, obviously, for Cherie DeVaux, who became the first female trainer to win the Kentucky Derby in the 152-year history of the race, and only the second female trainer to win a Triple Crown race. Jenna Antonucci trained Arcangelo to win the most recent mile-and-a-half Belmont in 2023. It's a mile and a quarter the last couple of years because of the renovations at Belmont, forcing the race to be moved to Saratoga, and Saratoga doesn't have a good starting point for a mile and a half race. Because of the dimensions there. So I would fully expect, I think, at this point, Golden Tempo to go go to the Preakness, and it remains a big possibility, obviously, for him, that they haven't decided where it was going to go, but we will see what Cherie DeVaux thinks, because if she doesn't run Golden Temple in the Preakness, it would be the second straight year where the Derby winner does not run in the Preakness. So we'll see about that. And remember, the Preakness this year is going to be at nearby Laurel Park because they're doing renovations at Pimlico. So the Kentucky Derby was the only race this year where it was held, where the race was held in its regular place. So great stuff all around in the world of sports. So definitely stay tuned. It's going to be a terrific a few weeks of action in the world of sports. So I'll be looking forward to talking deeper about each of these series in the coming weeks. So until next time, this is John Flynn saying so long. I'll be back here on the podcast next week. Take care, everybody, and so long.